Hello my friends. It's time to talk about all the books that I have recently added to my TBR, of which there are a lot. I think we have 18 to talk about today, so buckle in. Let's just get right into it. The first things I want to talk about, which you've probably already seen, but the cover reveal for the third Crescent City book, it's absolutely stunning. I love it. I am gonna buy one copy of this book and read it when it comes out. Excited for when that comes out. It's coming out January 20th, I believe. Okay, we have a cover for the latest book in the Wayward Children series by Shauna McGuire. There's dinosaurs on the cover, if you can see, which makes me so exciting. We're going to a dinosaur world. This is called Mislaid in Parts Half Known. And in this one, we are following Antsy, who we met in a previous book, and we're going to a dinosaur world. We are going to a dinosaur world, and I am so excited about it. But yes, I absolutely adore this cover. This, of course, comes out in January, the 9th of January. We have a cover for the author of Ace of Spades' new book, which is called Where Sleeping Girls Lie by Farida Abike Ayimede. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. It is a YA contemporary mystery about a girl new to boarding school discovering dark secrets and cover-ups after her roommate disappears. That's all I want to know. I don't want to know anything else. I am so excited for this. This comes out, in case I hadn't talked about it before, because I don't actually remember talking about it, but it comes out March of 2024. And then we also got a cover for One of Us Knows by Alyssa Cole. This one I know I've talked about because I've been super excited for this book. I loved Alyssa Cole's other thriller. What was it called? When No One Is Watching? Yes, When No One Is Watching. Absolutely loved that. 5-star thriller for me. I feel like this is where she lives. You know what? I think like her romances were great. They were great. But thrillers is what she should do with her life. So now we have a cover for One of Us Knows, which looks ominous, and I'm very excited. Not what I was expecting for the cover, but still very excited to read it. Okay, those are the exciting cover reveals. Let's get into all of the books. So the first one is It Came From the Closet, edited by Joe Valise. The cool thing about this is that it's like based on horror movies, and each author takes a certain horror movie and they do a little essay on it. Did I say this is nonfiction? It's nonfiction. Yeah, it says, from Halloween to Hereditary, queer and trans writers consider the films that deepened, amplified, and illuminated their own experiences. So this sounded super interesting, and I, of course, added it to my TBR. And I've kind of been forgetting about nonfiction this year. So, well, not this year, because I feel like I've read a good amount of it, but lately, the past few months, I haven't read any, so I do really need to read more nonfiction. The next book on my list is the next buzzy title that I keep hearing about. Like, I feel like in every one of these videos, there's always that one book, right? Like last time it was Fourth Wing, that one book that just everyone's talking about everywhere, and now I feel like I need to read it too, or I don't want to be left out, you know what I mean? So this time around, that book is The Mountain in the Sea by Ray Naylor. It says, humankind discovers intelligent life in an octopus species with its own language and culture and sets off a high-stakes global competition to dominate the future. Like, doesn't that sound interesting? I've heard like nothing but great things about it so far, and like I said, I've just been hearing everyone talk about it, so it got added to my list. Another one that's more lit fic, and I'm surprised I'm adding so many of these kinds of books to my TBR, but you'll know why in a second. So this is The Center by Aisha Manazar Siddiqui. This one I heard about from Bethany, from Beautifully Bookish Bethany. This is in her review. She says, if Babel and The Last Tale of the Flower Bride had a 30-something lit fic baby with a dark side, this book would be it. And that's what sold me. Her review. But it says that this is a darkly comic, boundary-pushing debut following an adrift Pakistani translator in London who attends a mysterious language school which boasts complete fluency in just 10 days, but at a secret, sinister cost. By turns dark, funny, and surreal, and with twists page-turning and shocking, The Center takes the reader on a journey through Karachi, London, and New Delhi, interrogating the sticky politics of language, translation, and appropriation with biting specificity, and ultimately asking, what price would you be willing to pay for success? Does that not sound really, really good? Plus, look at the cover. The cover's stunning. That summary paired with Bethany's review had me adding it to my list super quick. Okay, next we have a comic, okay? And this is by Stephen Graham Jones, who I read a book by him, didn't love it, and then I DNF'd another book by him. So I haven't had like the best luck with Stephen Graham Jones, but just like the premise of it just sounds so good. The first volume bind up is coming out in September of this year, and it's called Earth Divers Volume 1, Kill Columbus. So basically the premise of this is that it's 2112 and the apocalypse is happening, right? Rivers receding, oceans rising, civilization crumbling, humanity has given up hope, except for a group of indigenous outcasts who have discovered a time travel portal in a cave in the desert and figured out where everything took a turn for the worse for America. Convinced that the only way to save the world is to rewrite its past, they send one of their own on a bloody one-way mission to 1492 to kill Christopher Columbus and stop him from coming to America. Come on. I had to add it to my list. That sounds so interesting. So I'm very excited to give this a read when that comes out. Hopefully it's as good as I'm making it sound in my mind. Next we have Bonesmith by Nikki Powell-Prado. I have read a book by Nikki Powell-Prado before and I didn't love it, but this just seems so much more up my alley. First of all, look at the cover. The cover's stunning. And it says Gideon the Ninth meets the Game of Thrones White Walkers in this dark young adult fantasy about a disgraced ghost-fighting warrior who must journey into a haunted wasteland to rescue a kidnapped prince. I don't know anything about White Walkers from Game of Thrones, honestly. I've never watched Game of Thrones, I've never read the books, so I don't know that comparison and what that is, but the Gideon the Ninth comparison, absolutely. This one is already out, actually. It came out yesterday as I'm filming this video. I don't know when I'll get to it, but I definitely do want to give it a read sometime soon. And then I found out that Sangu Mandana, who is the author of the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, is coming out with a new book next year, and it's called A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, and it looks absolutely adorable. I think this is another cozy, witchy fantasy romance, just like her first one. Sorry, I don't know what my voice did there. But yeah, love the cover of this. It says, an enchanting novel about a witch who has a second chance to get her magical powers and her life back on track. She was once the most powerful witch in Britain. Then she resurrected her great aunt Jasmine from the very recently dead, lost most of her magic, befriended a semi-villainous talking fox. Oh wow. I did not read this before, and was exiled from her magical guild. And now she's running an inn with her Aunt Jasmine. There's a talking fox, you guys. There's a talking fox. This is, it's just even better than I thought before. I didn't actually read the synopsis. I just saw that she was coming out with another book and I added it because I'm like, I will definitely read everything she writes. I think this is another just like found family cozy time, and I'm so excited for this. I cannot wait for it to come out. It is now one of my most anticipated releases of 2024. It comes out in April, so a bit of a wait. And next we have Set on You by Amy Lee. This is a romance. Actually, I was quite interested in the second book in this series, and I know with romance series you don't necessarily like need to read them in order, but I like to. So I was interested in X's and O's, right, which is the second book in the series, and I was interested in this because it follows a romance novel obsessed social media influencer, and I liked the idea of following an influencer and following that little romance, and then I realized that it was part of a series, and I was like, oh, I should probably read the first one first. And I think it's just like a whole series of influencers. So the first one, Set on You, is about a fitness influencer. A gym nemesis pushes a fitness influencer to the max in Amy Lee's steamy debut romantic comedy. I'm gonna give it a try and then hopefully continue on with the series. The next book on the list I had no idea was coming out, but Jacqueline Woodson is coming out with a new book called Remember Us. If you've been here for any amount of time, you will know that I'm obsessed with Jacqueline Woodson as an author. I have not read everything by her, but everything I have read by her has been 5 stars. Like, I have not given any book that I've read by her less than 5 stars. Okay? Like, she's just legendary. You know what I mean? She's legendary. And so, of course, I'm gonna read absolutely everything by her. I don't even need to know what it's about, honestly. And I don't read synopses of her books before I go into them. I just like to experience them. So I'm not gonna read the full synopsis, but it does say, Jacqueline Woodson brings readers a powerful story that delves deeply into life's burning questions about time and memory and what we take with us into the future. So there's a little something about what it's about. Regardless, I don't care. I am going to read it as soon as it comes out. It comes out October 10th of this year. I know that I'm gonna love it. It's probably gonna be 5 stars, and I'm probably gonna sob because I sob for every single book that I read by her. So very excited for this one. Next, I want to read How to Say Babylon by Safia Sinclair. So I don't remember where I heard about this book. I really don't. This is a nonfiction memoir about Sinclair dealing with her struggle to break free of her Rastafarianism upbringing, ruled by her father's strict patriarchal views and repressive control of her childhood, to find her own voice as a woman and poet. Very interested in this because I am very familiar with this religion because of my culture and upbringing. And I like, in general, stories about people deconstructing from any kind of religion are always very interesting to me. So I'm excited to give this one a read. It's probably gonna be like a heart-wrenching one and probably a beautiful one. So I'm excited to give this a read. This is another one that comes out in October 3rd. Okay, the next book on my list is another one that I can't remember where I heard about it, but I know I heard someone talking about it. And the thing that appealed to me, like, this is very typical fantasy setup. We have, like, it's called The Jasad Heir. Did I say that? The Jasad Heir by Sarah Hashem. This one, I say very typical, like, fantasy setup because we have the lost heir type trope, right? Which is very common. But the interesting thing about this, it is set in an Egyptian inspired world, and I love Egyptian or North African inspired fantasy. And so I had to add it to my list. It says, in this Egyptian inspired debut fantasy, a fugitive queen strikes a deadly bargain with her greatest enemy and finds herself embroiled in a complex game that could resurrect her scorched kingdom or leave it in ashes forever. There's also some kind of magic involved. But yeah, I heard this and it sounded really good. The setting of it, at least. So hopefully it is. This one came out July 18th. So I already talked about this in my like series check-in video, but The Good, the Bad, and the Aunties by Jessica Sutanto is the 3rd book in the Aunties series by this author. The first book being Dial A for Aunties, and it recently got a cover and a date, and I am super excited. I already talked about it in that video, so I won't talk about it here, but it's another book I added recently to my TBR. The next book is Out There Screaming, an anthology of new Black horror. This is edited by Jordan Peele. Obviously, I'm gonna read this one. Obviously, like, it sounds so good, and I'm excited about it being edited by Jordan Peele. But this one has a lot of great authors in it. I heard about it because Pijale Clark, who you guys know is one of my favorite authors, has a story in it. And he posted about it on Instagram, and that's how I got it on my radar. But we have Pijale Clark, we have Nnedi Okorafor, N.K. Jemisin, Tananarive Due, Rebecca Roanhorse, Tociana Onyebuchi, and just other great authors that I haven't read from before that I'm very excited to read from. So I cannot wait for this. The book, like the horror book of the season. It comes out October 3rd. And I really want to pick it up immediately when it comes out and read it. I recently found out about The Bookshop and the Barbarian by Morgan Stang. This is one that I'm interested in simply because it's giving me Legends and Lattes vibes, and that's it. Beautiful cover. It is like a cozy bookshop called The Cozy Quill, and the owner of this bookshop finds squatters on her property, and she employs Asteria, who is a giant barbarian warrior, woman, more accustomed to swinging an axe than opening a book, and together the odd couple must make a success out of the bookshop and survive a dizzying procession of seasonal festivals. Like, it just sounds so adorable. Definitely, you know, those Legends and Lattes cozy fantasy vibes, so I added it to my TBR, and it's a really short one as well. It looks like only 200 pages, so it'll probably be like a really quick read as well. I'm hoping to try to read this before the end of the year, around the end of the year, because it just sounds like so cozy and autumnal. Then we have The Wishing Game. Okay, this is the other super buzzy title that I keep seeing going around that like everyone's loving right now, so of course I had to add it to my TBR, and it's another like lit fic, I feel. But this is The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. I remember Elliot Brooks in her review like comparing it to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It says, years ago, a reclusive mega best-selling children's author quit writing under mysterious circumstances, but then suddenly he resurfaces with a brand new book and a one-of-a-kind competition offering a prize that will change the winner's life. So there's that. It has like this cozy vibe, but then there's also like a really big twist ending, I guess. So I don't know. I added it to my TBR because it sounded so good, and like I've been seeing everyone reading this and loving it. So we shall see. Okay, another book that I already mentioned in my TBR for August, for my Magical Readathon TBR, but My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. I am planning on reading this on this month. As the day it comes out, I have to read it because I put it on my Magical Readathon TBR. This is a contemporary rom-com with a vampire. That's basically it. And honestly, like, don't we all need more vampires in our life? We do. We really do. So I am very excited to give this one a read. Like I said, I love the cover of this so much. It is so adorable. And I'm very excited to see how I get on with this one. So yes, added that to the TBR as well. Then we have another nonfiction that sounded really interesting. This is called Rest is Resistance, a Manifesto, and this is by Trisha Hersey. It says, far too many of us have claimed productivity as the cornerstone of success. Brainwashed by capitalism, we subject our bodies and minds to work at an unrealistic, damaging, and machine-level pace, feeding into the same engine that enslaved millions into brutal labor for its virtuous benefit. Rest in its simplest form becomes an act of resistance and reclaiming of power because it disrupts and pushes back against capitalism and white supremacy. So this sounded very interesting. I have very much, since the beginning of the year, been trying to get out of that mindset of like constantly needing to be productive, and so I'm very excited to give this a read and see what it has to say. I think it's gonna be a good one. Another one that when I saw the title I was like, yes, this one isn't coming out until like next year, April of next year, but it's called How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying by Django Wexler. So I have not been interested in picking up anything by Django Wexler, or maybe I have, I don't know, but I remember like trying to read a book by him once. I think it was like a YA, and I couldn't get through it. I DNF'd it, but I am willing to try something else. So this one, there's like a tiny little summary on Goodreads. I remember someone talking about this, again, I don't remember who, but there's like a tiny summary on Goodreads. It says, a young woman stuck in a time loop tires of defending humanity from the Dark Lord and decides to become the Dark Lord herself. Yes, like, doesn't that sound good? And then the very last book that I have recently added to the TBR is If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy. This is another situation where like I saw the third book in this romance series and I was like, oh, I want to read that because it's written by Zoraida Cordova and I love Zoraida Cordova, but then I saw it was like the third book. And again, like I said earlier, I know you don't have to read them in order, but I want to. So this is, and I didn't like, did I know this was a thing? I must have, but I guess I just wasn't interested in reading it for whatever reason. But this is but it's called the Meant to Be series, and it's basically adult romance reimagining of classic Disney stories. So If the Shoe Fits is obviously a Cinderella-ish retelling, but it's modern, contemporary retelling of Cinderella. And then the second book is By the Book by Jasmine Guillory, which is a Beauty and the Beast reimagining. And then we have Kiss the Girl by Zoraida Cordova, which is the one that I'm very interested in reading. It came out on the 1st of August. So I have to read If the Shoe Fits. I think I'm gonna do that pretty soon. I'm gonna try to do, I'm filming this a little bit early in July still, so I think I'm gonna try to read it before the end of the month, and maybe the second book too, because I know my library has them available, and then I can get to the third one. Those are all of the books that I've recently added to my TBR. Talk to me down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. Are you interested in reading any of these? Have you read any already? And what did you think? Let me know all the things in the comments. But that is going to be it from me today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.